Rob, I know you've been here before.
My first time, though.
Is this your first time in New Hampshire?
Yes.
It's my first time. Be gentle. What?
This is super exciting. Name a more iconic rodent duo. Oh, wait. Don't say Chip and Dale. We'll throw you out.
What Hubie and Bert? How about Hubie and Bert from the old Warner Brothers cartoons?
You might be deep cutting a little too much, even for a convention.
I don't know.
Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Real pleasure, seriously.
I'm curious, right off the bat, how you see your characters of Pinky and the Brain.
Eyes.
Do you see them as heroes, villains, or somewhere in between?
Oh, that's a good question. Because
think...
you can't play a villain as though he's a villain.
Right.
Goldfinger thought he was right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to
No,
die.
Mr. Bond, I expect you to die so I can go on with my plan. You got to play your villain as though he believes what he's doing is the absolute right thing to do. And in my mind, playing Brain, I always had, even though trying to take over the world is a villainous thing, I always had Brain in my head as someone who he just felt that he knew better than absolutely every other dunderhead on the face of the planet.
Sounds
and that I
remarkably familiar.
I could take over the world so I could save it. Yeah. Yes. But of course, they didn't always write the scripts that way. But the beauty of the show was that the plans were doomed to failure. So you couldn't really live in terror that the infundibulator was going to cause you to be stuck on the ground because all the loose change in your pocket had become magnetized.
Yeah.
And that would be your fate for the rest of your life. It's a silly plan. And probably the answer to the question, which one's the genius and which one's insane. But that's my way of looking at it. And Pinky, how did you... Sorry,
Well,
Pinky is not a real person. We have Rob Paulsen, the actual person here. Rob, the actor, the artist, the genius.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm not Pinky, but an incredible simulation.
I'm not Pinky.
My name is
My name
Judy.
is Robert.
Well, firstly, and
His name is Robert
he
Paulsen.
He will automatically try to shift focus because he is such a delight. But honestly, if you can't do the job working with Maurice Lamarche, then you gotta get that out of show business. Because he really is. We have become, I think it's fair to say, even though I know we have people who are very kindly interested in what we do, I think it's fair to say that Pinky and the Brain have become a pretty iconic comedy duo. And
Pretty iconic.
not, we're still alive, so that probably is for a lot of you to make that decision years later. But I'm telling you what, man, we did the reboot, but the show is 30 plus years old. You guys, many of you weren't born when we started working on it. And the thing that
We were barely born when we started working on it.
the things that I think...
My talent wasn't born yet when I started working on it.
Brian is still working on his talent.
There you go.
The opportunity to see how deeply these characters connect with people, and the stories, some of which we've heard this just today about. It was a very dark time in my life, acrimonious divorce with my parents. I was in the foster system. Things that you can't even comprehend. And find out that Pinky and the Brain got someone's mom through her chemo treatments. Are you kidding me? And so, in terms of my part in this, I believe what Brain is saying. I am absolutely 100% a sycophant. I know that Brain wants the best for the world. So I'm there. And our mutual favorite episode is the Christmas one, right? Because Pinky is utterly devastated that Brain won't send his letter to Santa Claus. And he tries to, it's like, I know, Brain, I know, but have you, stop talking about your stupid letter. Yes, but Brain.
That was the worst Brain I ever heard.
Yeah. But it's true. It is a love story, as Mo has said.
Yes, absolutely.
I love Mo, but I love the Brain. And I believe that he's doing the right thing. So in Christmas, when I'm trying to say, here, I just want to tell you how much I love and appreciate you, and he's like, no. It's about, I know it's about taking over the world. Send the letter to Santa Claus. It works beautifully, and I think it's because we trust each other and we love each other.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful episode, and Peter, Gordon Bressack and Charlie Howell wrote the first draft, but the genius of Peter Hastings was he added the whole gift of the Magi, element to it at the end, and that was what made that particular special was the first time that the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program had unseated The Simpsons. So we were the first. That was the first time that had happened, and they were rocked by it so much.
Yeah.
And I say this as a person who's worked on The Simpsons and Futurama and considers Matt Groening a personal friend, that when that happened, The Simpsons went into high gear to make sure that any other program competing had to be a regularly appearing in primetime show. No off-brand specials.
Right.
So because they really didn't like being defeated by this little daytime show that happened to have one Christmas special. But you know what? That show was a heartwarmer. It makes me cry to this day. And the show is not about taking over the world. The show is about the friendship. And as with any good writing in television, it's always about the relationships. Phil Rosenthal says it's always about love. You know, Everybody Loves Raymond is a show about a bunch of people who really annoy each other, but they also really, really love each other. If it was only about the annoyance, they wouldn't have been on the air 9 years. You know.
Well, it's like when Pinky says, "I love you, Brain," and you say,
"I tolerate you, Pinky."
Yeah. and that is the gist of the show. And I wasn't trying to dodge your question about how do we see ourselves, but
No,
as
I
Mo
don't
said,
think you did at all.
I 100% believe in what Brain is doing.
Uh-huh. And you touched on something that I also wanted to talk about. You are such an iconic comedy duo. And I think Animaniacs in general contains so much old school comedy. It was so vaudevillian. And it was a variety show for children.
Totally.
Did you
Absolutely.
expect that to resonate with kids when you were first making it?
I remember right at the beginning, Mr. Spielberg said, look, we're not making a kids show. We're making a show for kids of all ages. A la Bugs, Daffy, Flintstones,
Yeah,
Rocky
Stephen
and
wanted to make
Bullwinkle.
a show that he would watch. You know, that his friends could sit on the couch with their kids, and everybody would enjoy it. You know, in the vein of the Warner Brothers classics. Cartoons. Those cartoons aired in front of adult movies, not adult movies, but but I mean, you'd go to see From Here to Eternity, and there'd be a Bugs Bunny cartoon in front of it, as well as a newsreel and about 17 previews. But it was there were not little kids on a Saturday afternoon watching those. It was adults they were written to an adult sensibility, and he wanted Animaniacs to be written to the same sensibility.
And obviously, if you can't trust the king of Hollywood, he was spot on. The number of times he said, look, kids are going to dig it when we drop an anvil on Barney. And adults will say, I can't believe I just heard that, when we say, no, fingerprints. And case in point. And it happened over and over. And the number of times that Mr. Spielberg's prescience has been sort of honored every time we see these events. We see so many people who might be our age with a 40-year-old son or daughter and a 10-year-old grandchild. And they all come up and they say exactly what Steven said. That, oh my God, I started watching this in college, and then I met, when my nephew was born, I said, dude, you gotta watch this. And now my nephew has a child and we're here. And it is impossible for us to properly quantify what that means to us. Because some of these shows, like Bugs is 80. You can watch Bugs all day long. Pinky and the Brain is 30 years and change, in obviously the reboot. But good gracious, to be able to come and see how deeply people connect, he was right. And boy, is it a blast. It's pretty cool.
I was absolutely a kid in a family that when Saturday morning cartoons were on, Animaniacs was the show that the parents came in the room for.
Sure.
And they wanted to
Same
watch
with the
it.
Looney Tunes with my parents.
Yep.
In fact, I'll tell you, this is very quick, but years ago, I was working on a Jetsons movie, which was not very good, but I was Judy Jetson's boyfriend, named Sky Rocker, and you're the one who watched. But here's what Mo and I experience now, and I didn't really understand it then, but the gentleman who was directing was Gordon Hunt, who's Helen Hunt's father, and wonderful director, great
Loves
acting
Gordon.
coach, just a sweet man, a mentor. He's passed away, but he said, "Hey, Robbie, Mel Blanc is here today." Mel used to play Mr.
Spacely.
Mr. Smith, Jetson, you know, right? Hey, man, Mel's here. You want to sit next to Mel? I said, of course. So it was just Mr. Blanc and I, and he was close to the end. He was probably about 78 or 70. He'd passed away at 81, so he was getting old. And I said, Mr. Blanc, like anyone with a pulse, I am such a fan. My parents, same thing. Saturday morning was Looney Tunes, Roadrunner, Rocky and Bullwinkle, 4 kids, Bob and Lee, Paulsen, and bless you.
God bless you.
And thank you very much, son. And I thought, I'll never get this chance again. So I said, look, if it's not too much trouble, he knew exactly what I wanted, took off his glasses and said, yeah, what's up, Doc? And I swear to you guys, I thought I needed a Caesar salad. It was powerful. It was, of course, exciting, makes you happy, a little tearful, and powerful. So when Mo and I have that experience, virtually every time someone comes up to see us, we get it. And we would never compare ourselves to Mr. Blank, but to be able to see that superpower, and all you have, when Mo said yes, or if I say no, you can't help it. And it's the most amazing thing to behold. And we, in this generation, are a few actors who've gotten to see this. This is a really big deal.
The chemistry between the two of you is undeniable. Did you typically record together all the time?
Always.
Yeah, we insisted on it, actually.
I think that's very clear.
It was really, if he got a cold, this is in the days before COVID when just a cold was just, it makes you sound funny on mic. But if he got a cold or I got a cold, we just held off for a week. We didn't pick up. He didn't record his lines, and I came in the next week and did mine. They knew they were going to have to do 2 recording sessions, and so they just said, no, it's better when they're together. And so we would always play off of each
We're
other.
way, way better together.
Because acting is listening.
I was just going to say.
Acting is about listening to the other person in the scene and then responding or reacting to what they give you. And there's a certain level of annoyance that must be maintained at all times. And I just need to know exactly, is my annoyance a 6.5, a 6.8?
Is this bothering your brain?
That's
Is that okay? I just feel
8.2. I shall have to hurt you, Pinky. Don't make me come over there.
Yes.
No, but he's right. I'm sure we have some actors, performers here. Acting is acting, and when you're with,
Unless it's schmacting.
yeah,
I had a theater teacher, an acting teacher, Margie Haber, and she would talk about acting schmacting. No, I'm sorry. Margie said acting. That was her word for when people were just emoting from the stage without really, they just made their decisions of what the character would sound like and be like. Acting, she would
Yeah.
call it. Joan Darling, who won an Emmy for directing that amazing episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show,
Yeah.
Chuckles Bites the Dust. She's the other acting teacher I studied with. She would call it acting schmacting.
Yeah.
Like when you're just,
Well,
you're just
what-
the same thing. When you're not listening. You've just decided how your actor's going to say how your character's going to say the lines, and just acting schmacting. And
Yeah.
it's really just important to be in the scene, listen to
Totally.
what the other actor gives you, And Joan would say, let yourself laugh. If something happens in the
Sure.
scene, let yourself, don't.
It's organic.
Yeah, and then proceed, or let yourself cry. Have the emotion and let that alchemy happen.
Well, and as they say, a high tide raises all boats. If you can't figure it out with Maurice Lamarche and Tress MacNeille and John DiMaggio and all these wonderful people, then you either sink or swim. It doesn't mean you're not a lovely person and you aren't talented. But, I mean, they're I don't know, and I think Mo could probably vouch for this. I know no one in Hollywood who is really successful who is stupid. They are so smart. Billy West, oh my goodness.
Oh my God. He's
Dee
Tom
Bradley.
Kenny, the same.
Yeah.
Tom Kenny, it's like.
They're so
exactly.
smart. And you can't help but get better. And it's better for the production if we're all together.
Yes.
There have been so many responses, the sort of non sequiturs to "Are you pondering what I'm pondering?" And we used to just roll tape. A lot of them were written. We'd throw ones in there. If they made it, it didn't really matter. The energy created in a room with this many talented people on both sides of the glass ends up on the screen. And that's why you love a lot of these shows, because the actors record together. They have writers in the room with them. The actors will say, hey, I've got an idea right here. And in our circumstances, it really was a mutual admiration society. I don't think I ever saw one writer get sideways if somebody said, do you mind if I try this line? And whether it ended up with an improv that I came up with or not was not the point. It was that everybody is there together. And we often had to stop recording because we just couldn't get our shit together. It was, what a great gig.
There was shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And when you try to put shit together, it is really stinky. Just so you know.
I think hearing the voice of Pinky say the word shit just did something terrible to my brain.
I know.
How about this, my friend? Fart.
Scandalized.
Plays with your head, doesn't it?
I know. I must stop taking shit. People think I'm an asshole. Sorry.
I was going to ask, and you touched on this, about how much of it was scripted and how much of it was improvised, but it sounds like it was kind of just a group effort.
90% improvised. We're just geniuses.
Yeah.
No. The scripts were great. I mean, this is the great thing about working on a show like Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons. In my career earlier on, Real Ghostbusters, very intelligently written show. I've gotten to be on
Inspector Gadget.
Critic.
Inspector Gadget.
Gadget was a little great show, great experience, but not to me the most brilliantly written show.
Oh, yeah.
But Ghostbusters was
Very smart.
Real Ghostbusters. The mandate from Ivan Reitman on and Danny Aykroyd on down was each one of these scripts would have to make a good Ghostbusters too.
Yeah.
And so very smart show. Joe Straczynski, J. Michael Straczynski, creator of Babylon 5 and Sense8, was our story editor, and he held to that standard. This show, Pinky and the Brain, so intelligent. I mean, who else would have a joke about the Donner Party in a Christmas episode?
That's something.
You
Isn't
know?
that something?
The
They're
Simpsons,
so smart.
Futurama, The Critic. These are shows that were just super, super smart.
Yeah.
And, like you said about, they're really, you can't survive in Hollywood without being a highly intelligent person.
It's really true. I mean, we have, obviously, everybody has their own foibles, and, there are a lot of rehab centers in LA and all of that stuff. But all the people with whom I've worked on a show that you guys would know and that you would want to watch are smart. The writing staff on Futurama, oh my God.
3 PhDs. We have 3 science-based PhDs on the writing staff of
Unbelievably
Futurama.
gifted people.
You know.
And also really nice.
Quick funny story. Stephen Hawking came to a table reading of The Simpsons.
How cool is that?
Okay, and he was a huge fan, and he came in his chair, and whenever a VIP comes to the table readings, which are a big event, they have about 100 people in the large conference rooms at Fox, and Dr. Hawking is there, and the showrunner Al Jean makes an announcement, and today we also have with us the brilliant physicist Dr. Stephen Hawking, and everybody claps, and as the thing, as their clapping dies down, we hear from Hawking's voice box, he goes, I am the smartest person in this room.
Isn't that...
Wait. I am the smartest person in this room who does not write for Futurama. So he had that in the already loaded up in the
my God.
vocalizer. But I mean, that's the level.
Yeah.
That's the level.
Well, and also, I mean, they would make cultural references specifically so it would appeal to people on different levels.
Yeah.
Just like Rocky and Bullwinkle, all that stuff. And then, my goodness, when you get a chance to work with the King of Hollywood, you get a 40-piece orchestra for every half hour, just like Looney Tunes. We used the same piano that Carl Stalling used on Kill the Wabbit, and Hello, my baby, hello, my...
Same room.
Same room.
Recorded in the same sound stage
Yeah.
that Carl Stalling recorded, so that when we went to recording sessions with the orchestra, we literally felt like we were inside of a cartoon. Mm-hmm. That resonance is unique to that room, just as every performance space is. And it was like, oh my God.
And mutual respect. When we would, if Mo and I, or Tress and Jess, whomever, we'd go individually, the players, all of these world-class Hollywood musicians who play on all the film scores and the LA Philharmonic and just the best of the best. If you play oboe, that's all you do is play oboe on movies, right? But when we get there, they freak out. Oh my God, would you sign my music? And so that's my point, is that the respect for everybody who did that gig. If we'd be
everybody's at the top of their game.
at the top of their game,
Very,
so
you know.
they we all feel like, well, shit, if you're here, you must be really good. And then you hear the guy play his fiddle, and you, oh yeah, I know why you make $1 million a year playing your fiddle.
Well, Antron, I can't remember his last name now. I hate this. Anyway, he's the lead cellist of the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra.
Oh, yeah.
And he is in our Warner Brothers Orchestra all the way up to the reboot. And I saw him during COVID. I paid to do a thing with the LA Chamber Orchestra on Zoom just to watch him take questions and to do a recital from his home.
Cool. Yeah.
And he didn't see me on the Zoom, but I piped in with a question, and I just typed it at him, and the moderator read it to him. What is the difference between playing a Bach, etude, and working for Richard Stone? And he going,
Who was the lead composer?
Who composed all our orchestral music? And he said, who asked that question? And he looks at his screen. He goes, Mo, you're here. And then he says to all these, because it's a very uppity, sort of snooty kind of event with a lot of donors, big donors,
and
that
subscribers
have paid to be there. He goes, I would, in the day with Rich, turn down film score work because with Newman, to work on a Rich Stone thing for a third the money because it was just so much more fun.
Yeah.
He said first of all, the music was more complicated, and there's so many hits in the music, and he said that was the fun of it, to play that. I would much rather play that. So I would actually turn down more lucrative work to work for Richard Stone on Animaniacs.
And when you have that, like we said, you got to work to screw it up. And proof is in the pudding.
Antron Kazikian, that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be out shortly. Get your questions ready. I'll be going around with a microphone, and we'll get some questions from the audience. But you touched on the reboot, and just at the time when it came out during the pandemic, and you talk about like talking to Mel and how a shot in the nostalgia and all the emotions came back. What a time for the gift of Animaniacs to be given back to like the generation.
I'm so glad you said that. When the show was in production during COVID, at the time I released a book and I was doing a lot of interviews, and of course the subject came up about the reboot. And my stock answer was, man, we are fixing to unleash a whole bunch of Warner Brothers Looney Tunes lemonade. Mm-hmm. Because this whole thing has been a mess. It's been difficult. People are dying. It's heartbreaking. But oh my goodness, to have the privilege of saying, okay, we're going to get through this and wait till we see what we've got for you. And again, what a privilege to be in that position where your job, while you won't change the world. Your job is putting together something that is going to cheer people the you-know-what up. And you're looking at a couple of lottery winners. To have a job...
That's not nothing, you know? It's, I mean, we eat in every episode of any cartoon show we do. We have the help of about 187 other people to animate the characters.
We don't draw them. We don't write them.
To do the music, to you know, all manner of the voice directing. You know, but you know, we get to give it voice, and you know, so you know, apart from Tom and Jerry, almost all cartoons have voices, and you know that we get to be a part of maybe helping somebody's bad day become a not so bad day. Can't ask for anything more.
No.
You know, it's really kind of
a
noble thing.
An absolute privilege to be with you guys. Because, look, man, you can have a script written by Jesus, and if nobody watches, maybe the apostles, but nobody else, you got nothing. And that's the truth. Mo and I have worked, knock wood, on a lot of stuff, but if you have any idea of how many shows and how many writers, talented writers, there are in Hollywood and New York and Chicago submitting scripts.
Just in the United States.
Yeah, it's
Canada,
so difficult.
Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica,
Peru. Yeah.
Republic
Anyway.
Dominica, Cuba, Caribbean.
Also, historically, Jesus was terrible at comedic timing in all of his scripts.
Sorry, yeah.
All right, I'm going to come out to the crowd. Get your hands up. Try to keep them up. I'm not going to make you dislocate a shoulder, but if you can keep it visible so I can kind of plan a route, we'll get as many in as we can here.
That was great. You know the whole thing now, don't you?
No.
All right, so.
Hi.
So, Rob Paulsen, Maurice Lamarche. Now, I know this is a question that a lot of people usually ask all the time when it comes to projects and stuff, but are there any plans for future Animaniacs projects at the moment?
Not that...
Not at this time.
I
will tell you that because I want to.
Yeah.
I didn't sign an NDA saying I wouldn't disclose it.
Yeah, I guess I know
There was, and a collective groan will come up from you. There was a Pinky and the Brain motion picture in the
Oh,
works.
sorry about that.
They had a first draft, and it got Zaslaved.
Is there already hope for it?
He killed it the week after he killed Coyote.
God damn it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard about
So-
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there any hope? I know
Well,
the day the
Our only hope is for Zaslav to go back to doing what he does best,
Or
which
maybe
is
find a new distributor.
business's taxes.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
And
or maybe the film
hopefully
could find a new
somebody who
distributor
likes making entertainment
the
will
day the
run
Earth
Warner
blew up.
Brothers next.
Well, that's a fair question, but...
What was the question? I was talking. I'm so sorry.
Well, sorry for interrupting you, but Bart, I mean, considering the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie is trying to do distributor catch-up productions. Do you think there would still be hope for Coyote versus Acme and the Pinky and the Brain movie that you guys were planning, but got axed?
Well,
As I said, these things go in a drawer, and I hopefully if Zaslav moves on to another job, and somebody who actually likes making entertainment starts to want Warner Brothers, somebody could repitch that, and it could happen.
Well, one last
Hopefully,
thing.
we'll still be alive.
Thanks for your question.
Yeah, one last thing. But all right, so as it continue, I know you guys ended the Animaniacs reboot back a year ago, and I wish you the best of luck at your new endeavors. Just want to say,
Thank you.
whether that be Pinky, Brand, the Warner siblings like Yakko and all, I don't know what may come for the future, but good luck.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Thank
That's
you.
very kind
Thank
of you.
you.
Okay, who else has it? Yeah. Hello,
We have
nurse.
2 Indiana Joneses.
Hello.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I don't give a damn. Hello, nurse.
I actually had a question about the phrase "narf," and I wondered if it was in the script like that, if you improvised it. How did "narf" come about?
Narf was actually written because this is absolutely God's truth. There are 2 gentlemen on whom Pinky and the Brain were physically based. And if you look at them online, you will say, oh my God. Brain is based on a wonderful writer-director named Tom Minton. And Pinky is a fellow named Eddie Fitzgerald, who has a fairly severe maxillar occlusion and big ears and hyper excited. And when he would pitch a show, he would say, and then the guy comes bursting through the wall, Zort, and then he, from the building, Nerf, and just did that stuff. They were like these, Tourette's-like comedy things. And so the writers incorporated that because of Eddie's inspiration. But all of the responses to Are You Pondering What I'm Pondering, I think Mo even told me there's a collection of them online, right?
Sure. I mean, since the 90s, there was you remember the old Usenet news groups? I mean, but somebody had a web page and they collected all what they called APWIPs, AYPWIP. And so there's a ton of them out there. What was the question though?
It was about NARF, right?
Oh, NARF. There was
Just
some.
say no.
I loved though.
Just say point. Yeah.
I loved the episode, the first primetime episode with Jim Belushi.
Oh.
With the
we're at the underwater.
where we took over a submarine.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, the government agents trying to figure out what NARF is.
NARF means.
And yeah.
North American.
Yeah. It's they started giving it meaning, and somebody said something about it being Fran backwards. Maybe somebody's wife was named Fran. So I don't know.
North American radio frequencies and stuff.
frequency.
Yeah.
Who's? Oh, the pancake. Yeah, the one, the pancake jamboree. But we needed the sapo, or no, we needed the meat of a certain crab that exists only in yes.
Yes, sir.
Das Maus. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you. People love crossovers. Is there a crossover that you wish Pinky and the Brain had been able to do a la another character from the Warner Brothers catalog? And how do you think that would have been?
Oh, man. Well,
We did crossover with Yakko Wacko Dot in the Star Wars episode.
yeah,
That was
and
fun.
also in the.
In the mixed up one, when I got to work with Nancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mindy and the Brain.
Mindy and the Brain, and we did. The Yakko Wacko, the Animaniacs movie, Wishing Star, or whatever it's got. Yeah,
I think-
Wacko's Wish.
I think
Everybody
if we could
was
have
in
crossed
that.
over with the Flintstones, it would have been fun. No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
I would have loved that. Or,
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Eh.
I think so, Fred. But I just thought of smoking, something like that.
Pass me one of them Winstons, Barney. I'm going to try it out on
I don't know
this
if you guys know this,
Mousesaurus
but years
over
ago,
here.
did you see that? The Flintstones, one of their advertisers would be Liggett and Myers. So, Barney, have you ever tried an L&M? I mean, or Terry, or I'd rather fight than switch. How about you, Barney? I mean, cigarettes in the cartoon shows. Yeah. Who has another question?
All right, last one this side, and I'll hit you guys over there.
Hi.
Thank you.
Sorry, the Indiana Joneses, you canceled each other out. We had two indies with their hands up.
No problem. Right. Have you met Mr. Davies yet? No, I haven't. Oh, you are going to love that guy. What a pleasure.
He's great. What a class act he is.
Well, first of all, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Childhood and all of
You
that.
might want to throw your parents a bone, but thank you.
Yes.
They at least made sure you didn't get yourself killed between the ages of 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Which is when children are very prone to just walk into traffic. And
The president's song is still how I keep
How
track
about
of
that?
what president
Well,
was when.
and you know who wrote that? Same guy that wrote the countries, same guy that wrote the states, same guy that wrote It's a Great Big Universe and we're all really puny, we're just tiny little specks about that. Randy Rogel. We're good at, yes. Another example of exactly what we're talking about. And that is one of the magical parts of Hollywood. You get to meet somebody you've never heard of. That song with the countries of the world, that was Randy's audition piece to get the job. So that was the first song I recorded and the first song that was written, and the bar was really high. And what I love about that is you go out there, and now that we've been around, we've gotten to see so many people's stars rise. Tress MacNeille I knew as a cocktail waitress, and now she is the most prolific female voice talent in the history of Hollywood. And Randy is from another planet. He is so, and he's a West Point grad. Talk about overachieving, Anyway, you had a question, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, so maybe this question is better suited for him, but I'll ask you anyway.
Please.
It's no secret you've never shied away from, political opinions and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. I've been seeing the ads that just list all of the horrible things in Project 2025, and I keep thinking, man, I really need Yakko to sing this.
what did he say?
Is there...
seen the 900 pages of Project 2025, and the actors could do a song about all the...
Oh, singing it. Oh, that's great. Yes.
That is
Is
genius.
there any way that could happen? And
You know
if
what?
not, what is your
Randy-
relationship?
We'll leave it with Randy for an afternoon and see what comes up. Because
Yeah.
he'll probably write it on the toilet paper as he's taking his
but
morning
if anybody can
constitutional.
do it, it would be Randy.
Yeah.
I truly hope one day that you get a chance to see us doing Animaniacs in concert, because we do 2 hours and change of Randy's music, and we get to do our other characters. It's just a blast. But when you listen to what he did and the stuff that didn't make the cut, and you just go, oh my God. And he does not quit, and he can do it. He's like cartoon Stephen
Yeah,
Sondheim.
he's got a musical in development.
He's doing
right
a
now
musical right
in the
now
West
in
End
London.
of London.
He wrote the book, the lyrics, and the script, and it's being put up in London, and I guarantee it'll be on Broadway within a year or two. Amazing. Hi. Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Hi.
So, Rob, you had just told the story of finally getting in the room with Mel Blanc
Yes.
and asking him to do something. And I've met you a couple of times now, but I've never met Mo.
Isn't he just the biggest
So I've got him in
asshole?
the room.
Yeah.
Mo, can you do a little Orson Welles for
Oh.
us?
By the way, excuse me, this is the way Maurice used to do his microphone checks on every episode, and I promise you, it never, ever gets old. Never.
We know a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there. Do you really mean that? Yeah, I start about a half a second late. Don't you think you really want to say July over the snow? Isn't that the fun of it? If you could make it almost when that shot disappears, I think it'll make much more. I think it's so nice that you see a snow-covered field and say every July peas grow there. We know a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there. We aren't even in the fields, you see. I know we aren't. We're talking about them growing, and she's picked them. I don't understand you then. What must be over for July? When we get out of that snowy field. But I was out. We were onto a can of peas, a big dish of peas when I say July. You are? Yes, always. I'm always past that. That's about where I say July. Could you emphasize a bit in July? Why, that doesn't make any sense. Sorry, there's no known way of saying an English sentence in which you begin a sentence with in and emphasize it. Get me a jury and show me how you can say in July, and I'll go down on you. That's just idiotic, if you'll forgive me for my saying so. That's just stupid. In July. I'd love to know how you emphasize in July. Impossible. Meaningless. I think all they were thinking about was they didn't want... He isn't thinking. Orson, could we just have one last one? It was my fault. I said in July. If you could leave every July. You didn't say it. He said it. Your friend. Every July? No, you don't really mean every July. That's bad copy. It's in July. Of course it's every July. There's too much directing around here. Anyway, that's it. That would be how I get into character. But before that, I just did that, like pre-Animaniacs, I just did that everywhere because I had no sense of boundaries or whether or not anybody really wanted to hear from me. I just loved hearing the sound of my own voice on a real microphone with headphones on. And I would it opens up my throat.
Great?
And then when they showed me that little picture of Brain, the model sheet, when I went into audition, I had the audacity to think that they had created the Brain with my Orson Welles in mind. I didn't know Tom Minton.
He's talking
I have
about
no
the
idea.
initial audition.
Yeah. And I had no idea that they had Tom Minton in mind. And if I'd have done Tom Minton, Tom, God bless him, a real genius. By the way, so is Eddie. Neither of them are dumb. Eddie's a really bright guy, Eddie Fitzgerald. But Tom is one of those guys who talk like this. You got to be bad. I'm more than arsenal of facts, but I speak in a complete monotone all the time. And I think what the thing needs to happen is to be more oscillation of it. And they would have gone, okay, next. But because I had the temerity to think they'd created a character for me, and I did Orson Welles going, our plan, Pinky, tonight is to take over the world using an infundibulator. They went, that's brilliant. Oh my God.
And
Orson Welles.
canceled every other
And
audition.
I was the only actor to read for it. I tell you that only because Andrea Romano made a big point of telling me You're the only actor we read for the Brain. We heard you. You were the first guy in the room. I had the very first morning appointment to audition, and we just said, no more Brains. He's the Brain. Next.
Yeah.
Now we got to find Pinky.
That's
So
something.
that's it.
Thank you for I love it when he does that.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hang on.
I think everyone here can agree you've had an incredible career. Is there anyone in the space now that either the stars haven't aligned or just new talent that you haven't had a chance to work with that you'd like to?
Oh. You know, I've never worked with Alan Tudyk, and I love Alan.
Oh, Tudyk, yeah, but I mean,
I love Alan.
it's already happened for Tudyk. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
I'm not saying, he's a movie star.
I think
he's-
Jan Johns is a wonderful new voice actress. Jan Johns.
Yeah.
And
Jan
I haven't
Johns.
had a chance to work with her, and but I will occasionally bump into her around town, especially at SAG things. She's very active.
smart.
She's a wonderful young actor that you'll be a voice actor. I think you'll be hearing from.
Yeah, you can look up Jan Johns, just like it, John. She's brilliant.
Got an
she's
arsenal
beautiful.
of characters. She's great,
Yeah,
and she's
killer
so
improviser.
lovely person. Yeah.
A really beautiful woman, great actor, graduate from the University of Maryland, smart lady. Yeah. Hi. Who's next? Hi.
Hi. I saw you guys at Rhode Island Comicon last year, so I'm so happy I got to see you again. But basically, I'm about to graduate with a degree in arts administration. So I was just wondering if you guys had any advice or tidbits of wisdom for me as people who have been in the industry of entertainment for so long.
My advice is Amway is not just soap anymore. So if you think about multi-level marketing, I think that's a really good move. No.
Be easy to work with. Be likable,
Yes.
which you already are. But if it comes down to them giving the job to two geniuses, they'll go with the genius who's likable, who shows up on time, and is a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
So always be a pleasure to work with, no matter how good you are, because sometimes it's easy to think, well, I'm this good, they should put up with my shit. And that just isn't the case. So that's on a strictly personal note. I would say that to any actor, any writer, any producer,
Sure.
anybody starting out.
It's understandable when you get to Hollywood, when it starts to happen and you go, oh my God, I'm making this money and I'm doing that stuff, and people, I got a call from Warren Beatty's office to do, but all the people with whom we have the great pleasure to work, including Mr. Spielberg, are the nicest people in the world.
Oh my God! I mean, to meet him, he's just. Steven is so in the moment, so present. He's got that gift of making you feel like you're the only person in the room.
Yeah.
When you're talking to Steven, you would swear that he wants you to be his new best friend. And he's not sucking up or anything. He just has that moment of connection with you. And I've had exactly 2 conversations with him 2 years apart. And the second time I met him, they were both at Animaniacs celebrations. And the second time, he absolutely remembered what we were talking about 2 years ago.
Something?
So, that's a quality Bill Clinton had. It's not something you can develop. You either have it or you don't. But he's an amazing man.
Yeah, and
start
when
with.
you know that, and when you're able to work with people who could behave any goddamn way they want, they got a private jet, $4 million in the bank, a room full of Oscars, and they choose to be decent. And that gives you this much patience with people who don't behave that way. Because honestly, if you are really super talented and you behave that way, you better save your money. Because I hope that we got a few more years before us, but if I kick the bucket apart from the fact that it'd be a little inconvenient at the moment, they say, oh, what a shame. He seemed like a decent guy. All right, I reckon we better recast because it's not going to stop, So, yeah, you use your talent, expect to be overwhelmed by other people's talent. And the smartest thing I did at 22 years old when I moved to Hollywood was to surround myself with people who scared the hell out of me. Phil Hartman, I used to tell him, Phil, you are terrifyingly inspirational. And he would, nice guy, great guy, put me at ease. Robbie, look, we all steal stuff. Paul Rubens, Pee Wee, the same way. So you go there, Randy Rogel. Nobody's heard of him. Then you hear what he does, and you go, oh, my God, I thought I was the songwriter. So expect to be blown away, and don't be afraid of it. Embrace it and learn, and be a nice person, and you will be fine. And you're already beautiful, so come on, you got it made. Thank you.
We have time for one more. I'm very sorry if we didn't get to your question. Save it. Go over to this new arena and walk up to them and ask them yourselves. I'm really sorry that we didn't get to everybody. Our last
We'll be here tomorrow too. You got not here, but in the thing.
Are we going back to our tables though for the last hour?
Yes, we're going back to our tables.
Yeah.
Yes. Who else? Yes. Hi.
Hi. I'm not sure if this question has been asked to you a lot, but what is your favorite part of voice acting? Like, like what would you consider fun about it?
Oh my God.
To be more specific.
I don't know that. The hardest part about any acting gig is getting the gig. What we often tell people, it's always really sweet when young actors say, "Oh my God, I just graduated from whatever, and I want to go to LA, and I'd like to do TV and cartoon, whatever." But man, I just don't know that it's so competitive. Well, so is being a lawyer, so is owning your own business in this economy, right? All that stuff, but. Nobody shoves a gun into your mouth to be an actor. Nobody. In fact, despite the best efforts by people who love you, you often say, "I know, Mom. I know, Dad. I know, sweetie. I love you too. But if you don't want to go to Hollywood with me, I can't not do this."
Absolutely.
So when you get there, you already know that you're doing what you want to do. If I've done a couple thousand half hours of cartoons and TV, whatever it is, I've auditioned for 4 and not gotten most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite part about it?
Yeah, okay. With the exception of just, you got to learn to love the hustle. That's part of the deal. And like a lot of actors say, when you're auditioning, you're performing.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to get a check on, that day, but you have 5 minutes in front of a group of people who could make a decision to hire you. Whether it's today or a year, or in my case, I've had 5 years between an audition, and somebody will get a job over at Warner Brothers and say, "Remember this? You did this. It was not right at the time." Sure. So you got to embrace the fact that you're performing. You're doing what you came here to do. You might have to have 3 different jobs to pay the rent, but you chose this.
Yeah.
And the best part of it now, I have to say, especially since we don't do so much work in the studios because of COVID and home studios and all that, and this is the best part of my job now, because we see what all this impossibly you almost feel guilty because you almost feel guilty for seeing how much people love what you do, and they take their time to tell you all this stuff for which you were paid really well years ago. And this is the best part for me now.
For me, it's the immediacy of it. In voice acting, there's no hair lighting and makeup. There's no, hitting your mark is, making sure you got good mic technique. No memorization. You're just in the moment and being the character or being the characters. And that, for me, is the fun part, the fun, silly, willy part, if you will.
Excuse me. Fun, silly, willy.
Exactly. Of voice acting is that it is, it's just you're there and you're in it and you're the character, and it's great. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, and because it's very nice. And Mo's not being entirely honest. Mo does not put makeup and hair down when he goes to it, but he wears Spanx. And in fact, he's wearing them now. In fact, and when he cleans his oven, I'm cleaning my oven in Spanx. Spanx for the memories. Yeah, I know.
Spanx for the memories.
Hey, man, did you guys ever watch Tasmania?
Well, blah, 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 yakety schmackety, Taz. That's right, I'm Taz's dad, and I'm Taz's Uncle Drew. And Art Vitello, who also directed us on The Tick, he made those characters, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, and it was genius. And I got to play them both off of each other.
Oh, it was great.
There's an example of it. When I got to play both Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, I could switch back and forth between the characters
It's a great
and do
thing.
their timing. If we'd have done that on film,
Yeah.
we'd have captured a bunch of takes as Bob Hope.
Relight.
And I'd go back to makeup. They'd give me the turned up nose and the extra chin as Bob Hope and slick me back, and then I'd do the Bob Hope timing. And it would take 3 days to do it. And I just got to play it right there and do it. It was great.
It is voice acting is the purest form of play acting.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what you look like. If you're a beautiful woman. You know what? Today you're going to be the evil monster, and I'm going to be the beautiful woman, and I'm quite comfortable with that. Plus, I'm a tinker fairy in what's it called?
You are.
Yeah, Tinkerbell, right? I get to be Bubble. I'm a fairy, and I'm fucking proud of it. But my
As
point,
you should be.
Thank you. But you see my point. You can do that, and then, okay, now Mo's going to be the monster hunter, and I'm going to be the president of the United States, or whatever. You are not limited by anything but the kindness of people to hire you and your imagination. And it is fantastic. But
Gentlemen.
thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for being
Totally,
here.
man. Thank
Thanks
you
so
guys.
much for your kind
Guys, thank you
attention,
for
folks.
coming to see this. Maurice Lamarche and Rob Paulsen.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.